Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and the speakers here. Nowadays, all of us are talking a lot about gender equity, inclusion, and all. So this session is a perfect example of balance, two ladies and two gentlemen. So let us welcome all the speakers with a round of applause. So the first speaker in the session is Mr. Anup Saraf. He is from Oil and Natural Gas Corporation and he is going to speak about enhancing performance and energy efficiency of reciprocating compressors using straight flow valves. Over to Mr. Anup.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The my As you can see, my the topic for the day is enhancing compressor performance and energy efficiency of natural gas compressors through straight flow modular reed valve. So, coming directly straight to the topic, the straight flow valves is a valve which is replaced by the conventional plate valves, so that the flow is a straight flow with low losses, high equivalent area per diameter. So basically, you are changing the regime of the flow to increase the performance of the compressors and the efficiency of the compressors. All wear components are captured in identically sized modules that are interchangeable between all the state flow valve products. So this is a very flexible kind of component which can be changed with the compressors. So modules are held stationary between wall seat and guard, no wear on housing. And coming to the most important point of the day, that reed walls with no helical coil springs. So we are removing the moving parts of the walls. The only moving parts are high fatigue strength rings in a compressor wall, which is removed, and the mechanical properties of the walls are highly unaffected by the temperature. So they are tolerant to all the wider kind of applications in the natural gas industry and the other industry. For example, they are working in machines up to 200 to 3600 rpm, minus 40 to even uh, uh, 260 degree centigrade temperature, and they are working up to 300 bar pressures. All gases like sweet, sour, HCl, CO2 can be handled in this kind of valve. So this increases the compressor performance and efficiency by a huge margin. So, like I will come to the case study in a bit. So you will see that how the implementation of this valve has led to 5x to 10x better reliability for our wells. The spare consumption have reduced a lot, reduced emissions through longer mean time between shutdown, much more tolerant to entrained liquids and solid than conventional valves. We are all in the industry are face this major problem where the entrained liquids shut down the valves, shut down the compressor. So this is one of the thing which is highly effective in that mechanism. 2 to 10% lower compressor power to by greater throughput, lower power cost, lower engine emissions. Nowadays, we are all concerned about ESG emissions. That is the main mandate given to all the oil and gas companies, all the operating companies by the Prime Minister of India. So increased flow translates to additional revenue. So as a ONGC, we think of always the revenue. When we can get the more throughput, we can sell that gas to our consumers, and the gas rates which we are getting nowadays, thanks to Kirit Parikh committee, is very good. So eliminate key emission events, venting, blowdown, flaring due to significant improvement in valve reliability, reduced engine emissions or electricity consumption due to increased efficiency, carbon footprint and valve housing requirement are replaced. Lower maintenance costing 10 to 15 minutes to replace the module, no machining required. So this is a very important point I would like to bring to everyone. People who have been in the maintenance background could understand this and could relate to this point very much. 10-year warranty on metal housing. So no compressor manufacturer nowadays gives 10 years manufacturer warranty on metal housing. This is provided by this walls, and 10x less vibration leading to less maintenance and noise levels. So this is also helping us reduction in dollar value of inventory by more than 80%. This is actually which we have faced, and we have created a case study and convinced our management, and so our management is going in a big way to replace all the reciprocating compressors of our company by these walls. They have given a mandate to us. Reduction in only a small quantity of spare modules are required, which is leading to large space savings. So now coming to the interesting part of the day, we are coming directly to the compressor model on which we have implemented this valves. This was a standard aerial JGK compressor, 1200 RPM. It was the prime mover was the Vokesa gas engine, natural gas transmitter, 6-throw, 4-stage standard compressor of aerial. Uh, uh, Suction pressure was ranging between 0.28 to 0.84 kg per centimeter square, and the suction temperature was 32, ranging between 32 to 49 degrees centigrade, and the discharge paper was 22 to 33 kg per centimeter square. So basically, RPM was 950 to 1200. So we installed it in Unit A, and we started the operation in January. So basically, our to get the performance of the valve, we took the two methods. Method one was we were recording the data hourly, and we were recording the data daily. So pressure, temperature, flow, fuel consumption, all were being recorded. So let's see the data, what the data speaks. You can clearly see that you can clearly see that this is the specific power there, this is the specific power there, and this is the flow rate earlier, this is the flow rate after the straight flow valve is being introduced per hour. So this difference is the per hour improvement. So when we see the improvement in flow performance, that is almost equivalent to 5.62%. So 5.62% increase in flow rate throughput, and percentage improvement in specific power is almost 2.6% in method 1. This is all empirical data which we have collected from our field, in our installation, in our running compressors in ONGC at Ankleshwar. This is the table 2 presents a more equitable performance comparison, and table 3 focusing the analysis on instances where the discharge pressure surpassed 20 kg. Because of operational reason, we have to sometimes keep our discharge pressure below 20 kg also in certain conditions. But to get a level playing field between the regular compressors walls and this compressor walls, we took out this condition, and this led to a percentage improvement in flow almost equivalent to 6.07%, and percentage improvement in specific power almost up to 4.04%. So this is a very important data, I feel, where we collected from our running installation only. Just from a booster compressor, you can see that after installing of this valve, we have achieved a more throughput of almost 11,000 SCMD per day, while consuming only 221 SCM more fuel per day from one compressor. So this is the final data, this is the final result which matters the most, which is approximately leading to flow improvement of almost 10,160 SCMD per day, which is almost like 5%. While this method does not incorporate adjustment for fluctuating in operating conditions throughout the time frame, it does offer insights into the extent of flow improvement following the installation of straight flow valve. So we improved the flow rate in a single compressor by almost 10,000. If you consider 10,000 SCMD per day, so it is almost equivalent to 3 lakh of gas improved performance in a month, which is almost equivalent to 3.6 million in a year. from a single compressor, single booster compressor. So ROI calculation. So increase in flow rate, increase per additional SCMD gas rate is rupees 25, and how much is the revenue increase per year, increase production. So, uh, so almost you can see there is a increased revenue of around 2.5 lakh rupees per day from single compressor using this technique. Just a simple replacement of compressor valves. No big change, no big ticket reform in a compressor. Let's see the side benefit. Let's see not the most important benefit, but very important benefit as well. If you see the reliability improvement, you see the reliability of the compressors increased by a lot, because earlier there was a shutdown every 765 hours. Now the state, after the implementation of state flow walls, there's a there's a shutdown of 8,000 hours per month, and which eliminate 5 to 10 unscheduled shutdowns, which is very important for us, because when the plant restarts or the compressor restarts, it leads to lot of transient conditions and lot of troubleshooting, lot of problems for the asset level. And if you see the emission levels, eliminate 5 to 10 key emission events, blowdown, flaring, etc., reduce engine emissions due to increased efficiency, 4% improvement in specific power. If you are consuming less power, that means you are increasing the you are emitting less. No machining or new housing required, remove carbon footprint. If machining is not there, if there is a housing, new housing is not required, you are automatically reducing the carbon footprint. So this is the comparison. If you see the difference between the regular plate walls and the straight flow walls. Compressor is shut down every 765 hours due to valve issues, 8,000 hours in straight flow walls. Wear and tear on the seat and guard requires offset machining and complete valve. Lower maintenance cost, it doesn't require no machining and skilled labor required. Just to focus on the benefits, 10-year warranty on metal housing. Generally, what we get is 1 year warranty on the standard compressor control valves. Personnel at compressor side noted that compressor was quieter, load transmitter is smoother after valve upgrade. So when we see that the noise is reduction, it is also felt by the site people, not only by the figures what we are showing. Reduction in dollar value of inventory by almost 80%. Only a small quantity of spare modules required, which leads to lot of large space savings and cost savings. So, if you see the summary, to summarize, it is leading to a 5 to 6% increase in flow rate per day, revenue from increased production almost 10 crore a year, 5x to 10x better reliability, lot of less shutdowns, much more tolerant to entrained liquids, which is a major problem in compressors. Eliminate 5 to key emission, because emission has become a major challenge after the ESG goals have come up. 4% increase in flow at the same engine load emissions, same engine load and emissions. So this is a very important thing. But barring all that apart, if you see only the lower maintenance cost and reduced working capital, that is also becomes a big business case for the people. If you keep apart the increase in compressor efficiency, increase in the flow performance, reduction in specific power consumption, if you just look at the life cycle cost of your compressor maintenance, this is also a very good business case for this industry, I feel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anup, for completing your presentation within the allotted time limit. So now I would like to invite Subhoshri Chakraborty. She is AGM from Engineers India Limited, and she will talk about LNG cold energy utilization waste to opportunity. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Namaskar. Thank you, Shastri sir. Thank you, the jury members of IEW, for giving me this opportunity to present in front all of you. My colleague, Mr. Anup, has explained very efficiently the importance of troubleshooting in compressor, which increase the overall energy efficiency. And in a similar fashion, I would also like to make my presentation as interesting as possible and would give further perspective of energy utilization in an efficient manner. I am Shubhashree Chakraborty, AGM EIL. My presentation focus on the utilization of the LNG cold energy and would give a brief of the way and the decarbonization levers that have been adopted to reduce the overall GHG emission from the complex. Here's a quick presentation plan. I would start with the climate change and the profound impact of the GHG on our Earth's planet. I will also give a brief of the protocols and the agreements which are in support of the climate action. Then I will give a typical LNG plant and its energy requirement corresponding its CO2 emission, a standalone petchem plant and its CO2 emission, and finally, I will straight away dive to the main part of my work, which is the integrated complex of a petchem complex and an LNG terminal, and would explain in detail the different levers that have been adopted to reduce the GHG. And later, I would also touch upon the other intangible benefits that we have accrued out of this LNG carbonization. Climate change is a pressing concern of today, and it is mainly caused by the GHGs that have been emitted predominantly by human activities like deforestation, fossil fuel firing, and industrial process. The GHGs that are emitted, it traps the heat and results in a global warming. According to a weather report issued by the NOAA's Global Monitoring Lab, the average concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere in the year 2023 was 419.3 ppm, setting a record high. This was the 12th year in a row where the delta increase in CO2 per year was more than 2 ppm, and this is really concerning. And it is mainly caused by the fossil fuel that we are firing, that is the carbon particles that have been trapped by the plants through the photosynthesis reaction millions of years ago are being put back into the atmosphere in just hundreds. So if you see the blue line in this chart, it gives a CO2 emission in the atmosphere. This is being rising gradually along with the gray line, which is the human activities. So till 1750, that is a pre-industrial region, both these lines were rising in a stabilized way. After that, it started rising to 5 gigaton by the mid of the century, skyrocketing to 34 gigaton at the end of the century. And if you see the left and the right graph on the other side, it gives the future prediction of CO2 in the atmosphere on following some of the plausible SSPs. SSPs are the shared socio-economic pathway. So if you see the dark red, yellow, black, and green are the prediction of the CO2 in the atmosphere if we follow certain SSPs. SSP 5, 8.5 is the most concerning, where the CO2 is rising very steeply and resulting in most of the part of the earth will become unlivable. These are some of the protocols and the agreements which have been formed in support of the climate action. Starting with the UNFCCC that came in force in 1994. It is an international environmental treaty signed in support of the climate action. It has 198 signatories till date. Then came the Kyoto Protocol that was adopted as a first addition to the UNFCCC in support of the climate action plan. This required the 55 signatories which committed to more than 55% emission in the atmosphere. And then the third was the Paris Agreement, which was signed in 2015, and that replaced the Kyoto Protocol successfully. So in Paris Agreement, it required all the signatories to come up with their NDCs, which are the national determined contributions outlining their climate action plan. India was a party to the Paris Agreement, also submitted its NDC in 2015. These NDCs are like known to all of us. Now, in response to the growing climate crisis, India has revised their NDC and submitted in 2022, which is more stricter and more ambitious. And my work, or rather today's presentation, is in support of the fourth pledge of the Panchamrit, that is reduction of the emission by 45% by the year 2030. Now, like it's all known all to us that the oil and gas sector emits CO2 majorly globally. So if we see in the year 2023, 34 gigaton of CO2 was emitted around the world from only oil and gas energy sector, out of which 15% was from refinery and petrochemicals. India is also it has become third largest emitter of GHG in the global, even though the per capita emission is still on a lower side. Now, if we talk about the petrochemical complex, we all know that they are very energy intensive and often referred to as a guzzler because of the tremendous amount of energy which is required for converting the feed to the required building blocks and further into the derivatives. On an average, an Indian petrochemical plant emits around 1.4 to 1.5 tons of CO2 per tons of product. When I see the product, it's a summation of all the product across the complex battery limit. Now, this is a typical LNG terminal which takes the LNG from the jetty. It stores it in the double wall storage tank, which has its own BOG management system. Then the LNG is pumped, regasified, giving away its cold to the ambient air or to the seawater before it is being distributed to the end users. Typically, for a 15 MMTPA LNG terminal, it requires around 23 megawatt of power and emitting 16.5 tons per hour of CO2, and it has a potential of 800 to 830 kilojoule per kg of LNG, which translates to around 300 mmkcal per hour of coal duty, which is normally wasted to the atmosphere. The second is a typical petrochemical complex which takes a feed from the jetty. The feed is then cracked in the gas cracker, and it can be a naphtha or it can be a dual feed also, and then producing the main building blocks, which are the ethylene, the propylene, butadiene, and then they are finally converted to the finished product. I'll not go very deep into the petrochemical complex details. Typically, the CO2 emission, as I already mentioned, is in the order of 1.4 to 1.5 tons per ton of product. This is a classic example of a very simplified petchem complex which is located just beside the LNG terminal in the western coast of India. This petchem complex consists of an on-purpose propylene generation unit converting propane to propylene through dehydrogenation, followed by a propylene derivative that is forming the polypropylene unit. We have done we have done this integration in these two complexes, but if we say before the integration, the CO2 emission from the petchem complex alone is of the order of 1.3 tons per ton of product. This is lower than the typical petchem as because this is more simple and consists of only 2 units. And the major energy user in this complex is the process heater firing, because the propylene generation unit is an endothermic reaction, so it requires to be supplemented with external firing, and then we have the power import and a little bit to UV firing. In these coming slides, I'm going to discuss on the various decarbonization levers that we have adopted while integrating these two complexes together. The first is the cold energy utilization in the process recovery. So if you see the left side block, which is the conventional unit, which consists of the cracking, and then the cracked product is compressed and cooled via a refrigeration cycle and then taken to the purification section. So the amended version of the unit is that where we could eliminate the entire refrigeration cycle by taking in LNG into the system. So the LNG, after pumping, before the vaporizer is taken in the system, it gives away its cold to the cracked effluent. Itself gets regasified and is again taken back into the terminal. So this integration resulted in addition of some few pipelines such as LNG, RLNG circulation, and the cold work design condition also made to be aligned with the HP pump shutoff condition. But in spite of all of this, this integration alone resulted in a reduction of 12.5 megawatt of power, resulting in a 7% GHI intensity reduction. The second lever is the utilization in the space cooling. Now, typically where we don't have much waste steam available, we are putting this VCR-based HVAC, the air conditioning cum ventilation system. For this complex, the typical utility requirement for this HVAC is around 5.5 megawatt and 2500 meter cube per hour of cooling water. The improvised version of this HVAC system is what we have again eliminated the refrigeration system, taken the cold of the LNG, and we have only AHU, which is the air handling unit in the HVAC. So we could optimize the capex. Power reduction was to the order of 4 megawatt, translating to another 2.3% GHI reduction. The third is again the harnessing this cold energy in the air separation unit, that is pre-cooling the air before it enters the air separation or the cold box, reduces the overall energy requirement for throttling that air. This again optimizes the capex and the plot as well as OPEX. And this is the last, but the most important is that we have already seen in the previous slide that a typical 15 mmTP LNG terminal has a potential of around 300 kcal per of duty. Now, the cooling water requirement for this complex is around 16,000, which relates to 192 mmkcal. So, if we can harness at least one third of the cold duty, it is sufficient to eliminate half of the cooling load of this complex, which results in reduction of the cooling towers, the pumps, the pipe size, and a net reduction of power to the order of 2 megawatts. And more so, we are saving the more precious water. This is a cumulative slide of all the absolute CO2 emission and the intensity while adopting all the four levers. So if you can see in the left graph, the absolute emission reduced from 1029 to 920 kTPA. That is more than 100 kTPA of CO2 reduction on adoption of these four levers. And the right side shows the intensity reduction of 1.31 to 1.17, which means a 10.6% GHI reduction, which is a significant step in the journey towards net zero emission. Every bit of progress counts, and a 10% reduction is definitely, it paves the pathway for the further innovations and the improvements in the complex. These are the other benefits that we could obtain. Is one of that I would just describe is that in the polypropylene unit, we have the propylene treater, which uses nitrogen for the desorption and the regeneration. Now, typically the heating time and the cooling time of the beds are around 2 days heating and 3 days cooling. And if we can cool the cooling water with this chilled water, the reduction time will reduce drastically, and this reduction in the overall time will increase the operation cycle of the treater, will reduce the nitrogen consumption, will reduce the power. So, the need of the hour today is to have a comprehensive and systematic energy performance optimization and opportunity assessment studies. So, these studies evaluate the overall energy pattern of the complex and find out the inefficiencies and uncover the opportunities for further energy savings. And these studies are very crucial for any company towards the net zero emission. In line with my previous slide, EIL for the last 60 years have been involved in the concept to commissioning of various refinery and petrochemical complexes in India. We have a multidisciplinary team of energy managers and energy auditors who are very proficient in the real-time case study related to the energy efficiency. We also have a huge data bank that we can be used for energy benchmarking. And as a result of this, many of our clients has entrusted us to carry out this energy efficiency study for their complex in India as well as overseas. We have also formulated some of our in-house softwares using the real-time plant operation, which can be linked with this energy study as well. So that was all for my presentation. Thank you all. Thank you all once again for taking out your time to join this. I'll be happy to answer you and to associate with you on your journey towards net zero. If you have any query or any additional information, please feel free to reach me. I'll be available in our EIL stall as well as Make in India Pavilion. Thank you once again. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Subhashri, for the wonderful presentation. And energy conservation and conservation of environment these are both critical things, and you have very nicely brought out these aspects in your presentation. Now I would like to invite Mr. Mohit Raj from Pipeline Infrastructure Limited. He will be speaking on strategic natural gas storage, the case for India. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Sastry. Uh, my co-speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and namaste. I am Mohit Raj. I represent a company called Pipeline Infrastructure Limited. Uh, and today I'll be speaking about the strategic natural gas storage, the case for India, wherein I'll be discussing about whatever options are available for storing natural gas and what option best fits for India in the immediate term. So to begin with, a little bit brief about the company that I am representing right now. I come from a company called Pipeline Infrastructure Limited. We are owned by Energy Infrastructure Trust, and that's a trust sponsored by Brookfield Asset Management. We have a 1480-kilometer long cross-country pipeline that runs from east coast of India to the west coast, from the state of Andhra Pradesh to Gujarat, and we are transporting natural gas. Uh, as per current profile, we are currently transporting 35%, nearly 35% of India's domestic natural gas. That's our throughput. We are transporting gas in both the directions, from east to west as well as from west to east. We are connected to domestic gas fields on the east coast in the KG basin. Also, we are connected to a couple of LNG terminals on the west coast of India. Uh, our entire pipeline operations are remotely managed from our state-of-the-art SCADA center that's located in Mumbai, as well as we have a strategic control center also located in the middle of the route at Hyderabad. A little bit about our owners. So we are owned by Brookfield. Brookfield is an asset management company globally. They have nearly $1 trillion of assets that they manage across sectors like infrastructure, renewables, private equity, real estate, and so on. In India, they have a strong presence in infrastructure, in real estate, and in renewables. So let's talk about India's natural gas demand supply scenario. Little bit about the as is and what it's going to be. So in the previous session also, where Mr. Sastry was moderating, we saw a couple of presentation about how India's energy demand is going to grow multifold by 2040. So I mean, the world is growing at, let's say, a pace of 0.8% to 1%, and we are growing at triple that scale. The gas demand is going to be higher, but at the same time, when our energy demand is growing, we need to be very mindful of what fuel we are using, because we are in a kind of a dilemma situation that, okay, we need to satisfy our energy craving, but we must use sustainable fuels because the climate clock is ticking. The global warming is happening. We are looking at various, events, climate events that are happening across the globe. So natural gas has been in India for quite some time now, more than, let's say, 25, 30 years, or even before that. We have established a lot of infrastructure. So before investing into any new technology, any new sort of fuel related infrastructure investments, I think optimal way would be to better optimize the investments that we have already made. Looking at the investments that we have done in LNG terminals and pipelines, which are currently running at underutilization capacities, we can look at various options which can enhance the utilization of these infrastructure. And then we can make better use of uh, natural gas, which is a far cleaner fuel than the other fuels that are being used in India's current energy mix, let's say about coal and other polluting fuels. Uh, Gas demand currently is higher than supply, but at the same time, it's very price sensitive. When I say price sensitive, it means that we are almost 52% reliant on imports. Uh, any global geopolitical events happens, it impacts our gas consumption pattern, since we are major importers. Going by forecast, uh, so we will be needing almost 90 MTPA of LNG by 2040, or let's say 2035, if we have to increase our share of natural gas in energy mix from current 6% to 15%. Right now, just to give you a perspective, right now in our energy mix, we are using natural gas at a rate of 180, 190 MMSCMD. 50% of that is LNG, which is right 90, 95 MMSCMD. So I'm talking about tripling that consumption to increase the share of natural gas from 6% to 15%. So this brings us to the determinants of the demand for natural gas in India. Uh, it is limited by two factors. So normally what happens that either the countries are producers of gas, or let's say they are exporters of gas or importers of gas. We are in a different situation. We are in a 50-50 situation. We have domestic gas as well, but not abundant to cater our needs. So we all are also reliant on importing gas. Now, since we are reliant on importing gas, any geopolitical event happens, our consumption pattern changes. That impacts the switchover of, or let's say that impacts the consumption of natural gas in hard to abate sectors as well as higher large demand sectors like power sector. Uh, in India, we have almost 25 gigawatts of stranded gas-based power plants. And because affordability is not there, we are not able to fully harness that potential. Now, that calls for a need of securities of supply at affordable rates to make India energy independent in terms of natural gas. Now, let's talk about the need of having a strategic storage. As I have previously spoken that we depend a lot on external factors. So any volatility in LNG prices due to global events deter the use of LNG in India. And that's why, and there is a classic example to that. In 2024, during the summers, I think we had a record peaking power demand of almost 240 to 50 gigawatts. Last 2 3 years, if you see, we have seen a consumption increase in requirement of power during summer months of April to June. The growth has been in the range of 20 to 25%, and it is going to increase further going forward. So we need to have stable supplies as well as affordable supplies. We can think of developing some sort of a strategic storage. Uh, for example, when there is a peaking power requirement or if there is any sudden disruption in supplies of natural gas from external environment, we can utilize those storages to cater to our needs. So let's talk about what is the status quo of natural gas storage in India. So we have LNG terminals and pipeline network. I have already talked about it that we are underutilized on both the fronts. Uh, Underutilization of LNG terminals is partly also because we do not have that much pipeline connectivity to LNG terminals. Out of 8 LNG terminals that are in India, 6 are on west coast of India. So there is a regional imbalance also. We have demand centers scattered across the geography, but we have supply hubs at certain pockets only. So to have that, to remove that disparity, we need to develop these sort of infrastructure considering the demand centers as well. Looking at the global context of natural gas storage options, so as I talked about that there are basically two categories like exporters and importers. So exporters always have the advantage of having underground storage because they have depleted reservoirs and fields. So let's talk about US or Europe or Russia. So historically they had reservoirs, now they are depleted, so they are storing around roughly 15 to 20% of natural gas in those underground storage. And if we talk about major importers like Japan and Korea, so they do not have that facility of having underground storage. So that's why they have developed above ground storage. They are having separate LNG storage tanks at strategic locations to cover up for a certain period of their consumption. Some of these nations cover up for 30 days of demand, some for fortnight, depending upon their demand and consumption pattern. Uh, I would like to mention that Japan also has a strategic buffer LNG solution wherein they source gas. Basically, they source a cargo uh, which is linked, whose price is linked to the long-term contracts. Okay, and they keep it specifically for those months wherein they are predicting that demand is going to be there. So that way optimization could be done. Korea has a different concept. So Korea has a 7 day and 30 day mandatory inventory and preventive inventory kind of a storage option. So that they switch on, switch off based on their requirements. So what are the determinants for natural gas storage? Landscape and reserves is definitely one. Economic feasibility, because a significant capex investment is going to be there. Uh, since these are large infrastructure projects, So investors would be required. I'm talking about something in the tune of 4 to 6 billion of dollars. So if investors would be required, there has to be a risk and reward balance, and definitely different financing models in terms of, let's say, public-private partnerships or any financial institutions or project-on-project risks have to be shared. I've talked about this, that there are two options, that underground storage and above ground storage. What you can see on the screen is the challenges that both these storages have. I'm not going into those details. As we can see that above ground storage seems to be a better option for India because we do not have those depleted reservoirs and fields. And above ground storage also have lesser challenges to address too. I mean, if we are able to forecast our demand accurately, if we can manage the construction delays and cost overruns with government stepping in and facilitating the approval mechanisms, and if we are able to connect to the uh, pipelines to these strategic storages, then I think definitely we can develop some sort of a above ground storage and hedge our risk that is associated with changes in external environment. uh, Western coast, southern coast, eastern coast, these are the coasts that we have to develop these storages. Western coast seems to be a prime location because already there are terminals available and we can just scale them up. Southern coast is also one of the options, but pipeline infrastructure connectivity is a challenge there. Eastern coast could be for newer projects rather than, like I mentioned, that western coast could be used for expansion. Eastern coast could be used for newer projects, greenfield projects coming in together, because we do not have those many LNG terminals on eastern coast. So if I talk about the forward path, definitely government initiatives and policy framework has to be there, uh, because this is something that we are looking from the scratch. We do not have a precedence for this. A lot of stakeholders are going to be involved. And what has happened in the past, that uh, when we talk about any fuel or any ecosystem, the entire ecosystem has to be looked in toto. We cannot look at an ecosystem in isolation, that we have to fix this part of the value chain or that part of the value chain, because these infrastructure projects have project on project risk associated with them. So government has to take a central role in it. First, we can request the government to frame the policy around it, and then investors could be brought in. We can also look at initiating the pilot projects, because since we will be doing this for the first time in India, so we need to learn from the implementation of these projects also, because there will be a lot of operational and let's say safety and other risks involved as well. So we can start from smaller scale and then scale it up. Uh, because technical expertise and financial support would be required, we will be looking at some sort of international collaboration. That is not something that is very new. I mean, we have been collaborating with various technical support providers in upstream sector as well. Uh, and pipeline infrastructure availability is very important, because even if we develop these strategic storage tanks, I don't think, if we are not able to evacuate the gas from there, and if the gas doesn't reaches the end consumer, the entire purpose would be solved. So I think with the right strategies and partnerships, India can successfully develop and leverage natural gas storages to secure its energy future and become energy independent. So that will be my closing. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, and it is a good thought. And you rightly pointed out that there are several challenges also, but nothing good comes without overcoming the challenges. So the next speaker in the session is Aparna Saiju. She is from SLB, and she will be speaking about design and implementation strategies for an unmanned TEG hydration unit, advancing autonomous offshore platforms.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Shasista, for introducing me. I am Aparna. I am working as a process engineer with SLB. So, this is the era of sustainability, right? but this is era of the digitalization as well. So today I'll be covering some of the design principle for the unmanned platform, particularly focusing on the tech dehydration unit. So let's see, what does a gas dehydration unit do and why it is important. So the natural gas, when it is coming from the well, it is carrying a lot of water in it. And this water vapor or the water saturated content to be removed to a certain amount. So this removal is very important because it helps to reduce the hydrate formation. So the hydrate is nothing but like a ice kind of structure. It has the potential to create the blockage of the pipeline. Then this dehydration is very important in order to meet the sales gas specification. The fuel gas, when it is being sent, so it is mainly utilization for the heating purpose. So when the water content is more, it is obviously going to affect its heating effect. And then if the water content is more, in the presence of the acid gases, it will form the acid content in it. So it have the tendency to create the corrosion in the pipeline and the further downstream equipment. So for all these reasons, the water content to be removed to a certain limit. The mainly we are focusing the water content to be less than 7 lb per mmscfd. In some of the colder region, we are focusing mainly on to remove the water content less than the 4 lb per mmscfd. So there are many different ways to remove this water from the natural gas. There will be absorption technique, adsorption, refrigeration, and some other. But here we are focusing mainly on the absorption. So in this, with the help of a chemical called glycol or the triethylene glycol, and it is being removed with the help of the absorption. So this is a typical flow diagram for a glycol dehydration unit. So it has the two main sessions. One is the dehydration and one is the regeneration of the glycol. So in the first vessel, you can see, so this is the absorption column. So what happening here is the gas, it is coming in contact with the chemical called the TEC. So it will counter-currently interact with the TEC which is entering here, and the natural gas it is entering through here. And with the help of a structured packing, this mass transfer will happening. And the gas from the water content from the gas, it will be entering into the TEC. And the water-rich TEC, it will be leading to the contactor to the regeneration session for its further regeneration before it is sending back to the contactor. And this whole section, it is covering under the regeneration. So in the regeneration, one simple step is happening, like we will be supplying the heat energy. Through this heat energy, the water will be stripped out from this stream. So before entering to the main regeneration column, so this is firstly entering to the vessel called flash vessel. So when the water content it is being entered into the TEC, some of the hydrocarbon or the gas is also being entered into the TEC because of the solubility of the TEC. So this gas, it will be mainly to be flashed off in this main vessel known as the flash vessel. So this is mainly kind of like a three-phase separator. We'll be designing mainly with the help of like 20 to 30 minutes of residence time. So the hydrocarbon will be flashed off from this vessel, and followed by we will be providing two set of filters. So one is like sock filter or the cartridge type of filter, and the another one is charcoal filter. So in the cartridge type of filter, it will remove some of the solid content. And in the carbon filter, it will further remove some of the adsorbed or the condensed hydrocarbon in it. So this is very important because it has the tendency to create the foaming effect if the hydrocarbon is still present in the stream. Then after the filtration, it will be entering to some sort of exchanges. So this is like kind of glycol, which means, so the called rich glycol, it will be exchanging the heat energy with the heat lean glycol. So from this glycol exchanger, again it is entering to our main vessel. So this is like the main regeneration vessel. So we can call it as the reboiler. So what happening here is we are providing the heat energy through this heater. The heater can be many type, electrical, the fuel gas, many type. So the heat energy is applied towards here and we are boiling off the water content. And the water free tag or the lean tag, it will be entering from here. In order to further increase the purity of the tag, we will be providing the stripping gas also to increase the tag purity. And finally, the water-free tag or the lean tag, it will be again entering through the circulation pump back to the conductor. In between, we will be having the contact exchanger here. So the main purpose is we need to cool the tag to 5 to 10 degrees Celsius before of entering to the contactor. So this is also mainly to avoid the foaming issue in the contactor session. So this is the main process in the contactor that we already explained. So I am going to skip this. So this is also mainly covering with the regeneration part. This is also we covered. So let's come to our main topic, that is unmanned platform. So in oil and gas industry, it is mainly focusing on the automation and the remote purpose. So the main purpose is to enhance the safety, to reduce the operational cost, and also to increase the operational wise. So the unmanned platform, as the name suggests, it is like it reduces the permanent offshore, permanent crew required for the offshore. Sorry for that. So what happened in the unmanned platform is, through this automation, it will combine the automation, the remote control, and through the compact effect. So let's see some of the key benefit for the unmanned platform. So it will have the cost efficiency. So as we mentioned, it will completely eliminate the permanent crew required for the inspection of the platform. As because of that one, it will reduces the operational cost associated with this. And it will minimizes the maintenance effect with the help of the optimized design. It enhances the safety such that it reduces the risk associated, like the exposure to the hazardous chemical and the exposure to the harmful marine environment, the other accident associated with the offshore, and increases the operational continuity. So with the help of the advanced control system and the continuous monitoring, it always provide the rapid troubleshooting and the decision making of the system. So these are some of the key design principles which should be followed for designing the unmanned platform. So let's cover in detail. So first one will be the maintenance strategy. So while discussing about the maintenance strategy, whenever we are selecting the equipment, it should be provide the key importance that all the equipment that we selected should have a maintenance or the maintenance within less than 24 months or maybe 1 to 2 years. Still it is depending variance on the client side based on the specification. And the instruments also should be selected in such a way that this need to prevent the blockage. And some of the instrument upgrade can be the usage of the diaphragm seals on pressure tappings, the Coriolis meter type for the flow meter instead of the DP type, and directly mounted level instruments instead of comparing with the brittle arrangement. Then it will be reliability centered maintenance design. So this RCMD, it will focusing on to reduce the entire life cycle cost rather than comparing the reducing the capital investment. So it will help to create a comprehensive RAM analysis. So reliability analysis is being conducted for all the critical equipment, and where we need to provide whatever the critical equipment and sparing should be provided accordingly. So because of that one, it significantly reduces the operational cost as well as the maintenance. So particularly the tech dehydration unit, so the electric reboilers and the pumps are very important. So we need to create or develop the reduction electric pump and the pumps as well. So next will be the automation and the digitalization. So in the unmanned platform, all the startup and the shutdown procedures shall be automated. And then with the help of a real-time monitoring, such as the vibration or the acoustic analysis, it helps to check the process and the equipment integrity. And we can use some of the safety accessories like CCTVs, fire detection, online leak detection, etc., for to ensure the safety of the plant unit. It have it helps to minimize the human intervention, therefore the associated safety concern. And particularly to tech unit, we have created the online moisture analysis. So based on that one, also the online chemical analysis as well. So based on that one, the chemical injection can be injected automatically. So next will be the automated material handling. So it need to eliminate the manual intervention with the help of a remotely operated mechanism. So for all the equipment selected, it should be developed in such a way that the quick replacement of the equipment should be possible. And then should be material selection. In terms of the material selection, in order to withstand the harsh marine environment, all the materials should be selected with the high grade class, especially focusing on the stainless steel or the duplex steel. To withstand the harsh chemical and other enhanced coatings should be provided based on the saline conditions. So in terms of sustainability, so in tech unit, as I mentioned, there will be stripping gas provided in order to increase the tech purity. So normally we are focusing on the fuel gas, but in our case, like we have utilized the nitrogen, so it will significantly reduces the GHG emission. So these are specifically focusing on the tech unit. So in terms of the rich tech filter, normally it has the maintenance periods of the 3 months. But here, as it is unmanned platform, we selected the filters for a prolonged lifetime of almost 1 year. So maintenance we are considering for the plant maintenance for 1 year. So because of that one, the high filtration surface area is being considered in the design. And next for the carbon filter is also considered for the maintenance period of almost 1 year, and it is considered like design in the case such that the double stack arrangement for the design is being provided. And for going with the tech pump, as it is one of the critical equipment, in order to going with centrifugal pumps, we have selected the electric triplex pump or the bobble plate pump to have the reliability and the leak-free operation. So the reboiler bundles, normally it will be selected kind of like 2 into 100% or it can be selected as the 3 into 50%. And the specific arrangement is provided such that the spare element can be operated or activated remotely from the panel. And the thyristor control panel are equipped with a redundant fan for the improved flexibility. And in terms of the hot or the cold glycol exchangers, we have selected the welded plate and frame exchangers because of this leakage or the leak-free purpose, also because of the compact design. And this is the main thing, like we need to enhance the remote equipment changeover for the spares. So we have provided all the piping and the valve arrangement in order to ensure that the sparing is provided for the pump and the filters, and the changeover is happening in a smooth way. And the redundant instrumentation. All the instruments are provided in terms of 2 out of 3 such that it enhances the safety trip and also prevent the unnecessary safety action. At least we suggest to provide that the 1 out of 2 condition. So the chemical injection. So in tank platform, the pH or the antifoam, it should be injected particularly based on the sampling. So this is also mainly to create the foaming issues in the stream. So online analyzers are being provided in order to check the pH and the antifoam level based on the tech sampling. So based on that one, we have provided the octo-stop adjustment for the pump. So because of this, based on the sampling result, on what amount of the chemical to be injected to be selected, and based on that one, the stock adjustment is being provided. So in flash drum normally operating, the manual skimming of the hydrocarbon is normally provided, but as it is specifically unmanned platform, the automation is provided with the help of the level control valve. And also for in all the control valves and all the upstream isolation valves, it is provided with the motorized operated valves. So on conclusion, we can say that with the help of the advanced automation process, the unmanned platform is being very effective in reducing in terms of the operational cost, not only just focusing on the reducing the capital investment, but also reducing the lifetime cost. It has the potential to increase the operational efficiency and focusing on the reliability. And there is some futuristic form like to introduce the robotics, AI, and machines learns to have the better way forward. So in general, we can say that unmanned platform represent the future of efficient, safe, and cost-effective offshore operation. So by saying this, I am concluding my speech. Thank you all.
With this, we come to the end of this session. We had good presentations from each of the speakers. Mr. Anup Saraf, he spoke about how to enhance the performance of reciprocating compressors and improvement in energy efficiency. Madam Subhosri, she spoke about utilization of LNG cold. Mr. Mohit Raj spoke about creating strategic storage of gas. And finally, Aparna spoke about this unmanned platform for this TEG application, triethylene glycol. So, with this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you very much, all the members in the audience, and as well to the speakers. Thank you.